With Rescue Ace missing so many cards, a lot of people have sort of written it off as a future deck that's going to be really good, but right now is a little bit cope. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have absolutely loved playing this deck. It is super good. Honestly, it's a lot more powerful than I thought it was going to be, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that you can very organically abuse the likes of the Auroradon. And that's pretty important, and it's done in a way that doesn't just do the whole generic combo and whatever. What you're doing with your actual Rescue Ace monsters, the objective isn't to put up like a board of Rescue Ace monsters, because they don't do anything. The whole point of Rescue Ace is they cycle through themselves, they get into Turbulence, they set a buttload of back row, they sit on their back row until they eventually sort of grind you down and win the game. And that's their objective. And the Auroradon, the fact that they're all machines and they can go into Auroradon very easily, speeds that up significantly and gives you additional protection and everything. And I think that makes the deck much more powerful than I think a lot of people were expecting. So I've got a lot of pretty good replays here. We are going to talk about the deck in a decent amount of detail towards the end, because a lot of these cards, again, a lot of you are going to be completely unfamiliar with, and I totally understand that. So I'm going to go through them all in a lot of detail later on in the video. But Rescue Ace is absolutely here and is only going to get a ton better when its actual good cards come out, which should hopefully not be too long from now. So yes, we're going to do a few replays, deck for deck, card for card deck profile at the end. So if you're interested in this or any of our other breakdowns that we do in this style, you can absolutely like the video and subscribe to catch them as they're coming out. Or you can even join as a member using the join button or the link in the description. If you want to be involved in the deck building process, you want to see these things as they're happening, we usually do it in the Discord, either live or posting questions or posting whatever to try and help each other build decks, myself included. So if you want to be involved in that, it's free, links there, why not? But I'm not going to take up any more of your time here at the beginning. Let's start by getting into the replays. Alrighty, so let's get in here to game number one. This is actually a somewhat subpar hand, purely because we open up with Jet Synchron. If you don't have Jet Synchron in your opening hand, you can typically do something a lot better, but this is still going to be a decent enough introduction because we do have the Hydrant and the Fire Engine. This specific extender doesn't matter, but having Hydrant in hand is automatically really good, so that's fine. We're going to search our deck for Turbulence here. Turbulence here is one of the biggest, this is the Rescue Ace card, right? This is what you're trying to set up. Turbulence will allow you to set up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells or trap cards with different names from the deck to the field. That is absolutely broken. So what we're going to do is we're going to abuse that. We're going to search it out here with Hydrant. We're going to link 2 off into the Barricade Borg blocker. We're going to use the blocker now. There was no real point in us doing that in hindsight, but we did it, so it's fine. We're going to banish our 2 fire, our Rescue Ace cards from the graveyard to now summon out the Turbulence. Just like that, he's on board. Turbulence activates setting 1, setting Alert. We're going to set Extinguish, we're going to set Contain, and we're going to set Rescue to the field. We're going to now use these 2 to link off into Auroradon. There's 4 back row we just set straight from the deck, and now we're also doing Auroradon. That's pretty nuts. Auroradon tributing off itself and a token to bring out the O-Line. We're going to go straight into the Borreload Savage Dragon here. Normally what we would have done is we would have went for the Axel Synchron, but as we already used our Jet Synchron, there was no real value in utilizing the additional cards. So we're just going to go straight for the Savage Dragon. Why not? We would have been able to go in the Baron de Fleur instead and maybe enable the Borreload later on, but it's functionally speaking very identical. So let's not worry too much about it. We're going to go and pass turn. So what exactly does this board do? So first of all, we of course have our Omni Negate with our Borreload Savage Dragon. We have Extinguish, which will target an effect monster and destroy it. We have Contain, which will target an effect monster and negate it. And we also have Rescue and Alert, which can bring back Rescue Ace cards from our graveyard by either summoning them to the field or adding them to our hand. And all of these cards get significantly more powerful if you actively control Rescue Ace Hydrant, which you will likely want to try and enable. If you can keep this card on the field, you will want to. It's not always possible, but if you can, it's great. But that's totally fine. They're going to go for the Great Makonko Ceremony here. We're going to chain the Rescue. The reason we're going Rescue is because you kind of have to have a Rescue Ace on board in order to utilize your back row. So we do have to have Turbulence around, but that's totally fine because Turbulence itself is an additional interruption. This guy has an effect here where if another card you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you get to pop a card in their field. So even he himself is now an interruption, which is great. We're going to go for Extinguish here, immediately pop the Hugh Lee. We do not need that thing becoming untargetable later on during the turn. They're going to banish Ceremony to send the Dance. They're going to use the Dance to bring back the Hugh Lee. We're not going to allow that. We're going to use the Savage Dragon here to preemptively negate that before it becomes a problem. They still got 4 cards in hand now. They're going to go for the Water Dance. Water Dance sending the Turbulence back to hand. That does turn off our Contain. They're even able to steal our Borrowed Savage Dragon, so this is not looking good for us. It's looking a little bit tight. They're going to send Herald here, searching for I forget how to say that. People were correcting me on how I was saying that before. And the Manifested Makonko. Makonko Fire Dance, bringing back the Hugh Lee, bringing back the Barricade Board Blocker. We don't exactly have a lot of huge monsters in our graveyard, so that is going to work to our advantage here. They're going to go into the Power Tool Braver Dragon. This guy is going full tilt, aiming for lethal damage here as soon as he possibly can. This is not looking good for us, right? This is an awful tight match. We're going to go for Rivalry here, grabbing back the Wind Dance to the hand. Now they're going to go for the Power Tool River Dragon, grabbing 3 equip cards from their deck. They're going to grab all of these cards, boosting himself up to 5,500. He also has a built-in negate. They're going to go for Donner here. Donner popping himself and our token. They're going to go for the Wind Dance onto their monster just to give them an additional negate. 4,500 to both players, destroying our Borg Blocker. That does, though, get rid of their double-edged sword. And they're going to pass turn back to us. So we did manage that dodge lethal damage. We got double thrust in hand. We got the Rescue Ace Turbulence in hand here. So what we're going to do is simply win the game. We're going to go Turbulence, banishing the spell and the trap from the grave. We're going to summon it out to the field here. 3k beater. We're going to use its effect. That is going to beat out the Braver Dragon. That was our intention. Well, we knew he was going to negate it. That was sort of the whole point. So we can now chain to that the Contain to negate the effect of the Power Tool Braver Dragon. That is what we are after. So now that it's negated, that puts us in a position where we can utilize the effect still to grab Alert, but our primary goal was, of course, to enable the usage of Triple Tactics Thrust. We're going to bring back Jet Synchron, then go for Thrust, grabbing Tactics. Tactics then going to grab his level 9 Power Tool Braver Dragon, level 9 monster plus a level 1 tuner. You know where that's going. That's going into Baron de Fleur. Just like that, we got the Omni Negate, completely reclaiming the game back from our opponent. They made a very good, concentrated effort at trying to take over the game. They did very well. They almost finished us off, but unfortunately, we were able to rescue the win. So let's get into game number 2. Already getting into game number 2 here. We are going first. We've got Hydra, we got Airlifter, we got Kashtira, Fenrir. This is a pretty solid hand. We're going to start with Airlifter here. Airlifter then grabs us the Rescue Ace HQ, which gives us an additional normal summon for our Hydrant. Hydrant then gets searching for Turbulence, and just like that, it's the exact same setup into the Barricade Borg Blocker, and that's the sort of consistency that I like. We're able to very consistently set this up. And it's not really like a particular lane. Normally the resources you have at your disposal will determine how you do this, but it's not exactly very difficult to do. Turbulence then going to use its effect. Just set 4. Just set 4. That shit reads like a custom card. What do you mean? We just get the set 4 cards from deck. We're now going to use these 2 cards to go into Aurora Dawn. Aurora Dawn then going to summon out the tokens. We do have Fenrir on board, which is going to be useful later on. We're going to use the Aurora Dawn's effect, summoning out the O-Lion, and a token going into the Axel Synchron. O-Lion then summoning out an additional token, Axel Synchron, sending the Jet Synchron, reducing its level by 1 to go into Baron de Fleur, using itself in the 2 remaining tokens. That's going to trigger then our Jet Synchron, discarding a card, summoning itself to the field to use itself and the Fenrir to go into the level 8 Borrowed Savage Dragon, boosting itself up to 4,050 attack. What we do here actually is we use Baron to pop the Aurora Dawn to free up the additional back row slot for our Crossout Designator. And now again, Omni Negate, negate, pop a card, follow up, and we even have Crossout and Max C. Like, this is just nuts. And the amount of follow up that Rescue Ace HQ gives you, shuffling back 4 Rescue Ace cards from your graveyard or banish pile to draw 1, it's just insane. I actually think we show it off in this matchup. We bring back Turbulence and the Maxi during the standby phase. Again, we need to have this guy face up as soon as possible to make our back row usable. We are going to hit that Sprite starter with our Borrowed Savage Dragon. We are going to negate that and stop that from happening. Into the main phase 1, they're going to go for Live Twin Sunny Snitch. They're going to grab the blue Live Twin here, so they're playing Live Twin Sprite. They're going to activate its effect. We're going to go for Baron de Fleur. The reason we're happy enough going for Baron here is because we're going to negate it and destroy it, so he doesn't have a level 2 on board to go into any crazy plays. But he's also playing Runic, the mad lad, using the Runic Smithing Storm to summon out the Hugin, or Hugin, or however you want to say that name. They're going to now go for Runic Dispelling, which is a bit of a problem, because we just drew this impulse, and I kind of liked it. They are going to ditch it though, but that's totally fine, because we have the Alert, which can bring it back very easily. Alert brings the impulse back to hand. He does get to draw off a Runic Fountain here, which is a little bit annoying. But if he tries to do anything funky, the impulse is in hand for us to follow up and summon a bunch of extra cards. They're going to go for the Runic Flashing Fire, getting rid of the Savage Dragon, summoning a Jet Sprite, but they're not able to do very much else with it. They don't want to search for anything because that's going to trigger off all of our cards. And yeah, they just passed turn. Getting back in the hour turn, they do go for the Maxi here, but that's totally fine. We're going to go for Extinguish, pop in the Jet. We're going to go for Contain here. We're going to negate the Hugin because we do have a plan here. We're going to use our Field Spell, shuffling back all 4 of the back row cards, so we can now draw 1 and use Turbulence to reset the 4 cards that we just shuffled back. That is literally an instant +5. That is absolutely insane. We're going to switch Turbulence to attack mode. We're going to pop the Field Spell because the Hugin is now negated. We're going to use the additional normal summon, bring out Impulse, bring out Diviner, and that should pretty much enable almost lethal damage, if not lethal. 15 off the Impulse, 3k, 3k. We were 500 damage short, unfortunately. So this is pretty funny, actually. This card shouldn't be here. I accidentally added this card instead of adding Herald of the Arclight. Because we were on a Discord call, I got distracted. The replay was still really good, so I still wanted to include it, right? But this card isn't real. Ignore this card, it's not real. It can't hurt you. This is meant to be Herald of the Arclight. But yeah, it happened in a Discord call, so we were all sort of like laughing and got a wee bit distracted, but the replay was still good, so we kept it. There you go. Instant +5 at the end there. I love that little combo between the Field Spell and the Turbulence. It really works out very well. Already getting into our 3rd and final replay here. We're going to be playing up against some Kashtira, the MVP of the current pack. They're going to go for Scareclaw Kashtira, using Birthday to bring back the Tearlament Kashtira that they just banished. That is going to allow us to use our Impulse here. Impulse, of course, getting hit with Ash Blossom though. Unfortunately, we're not able to really use our Impulse much, and it is kind of not the star of the deck, but it's definitely something that allows you to get going quite a lot. We mill our Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line, which is a huge problem. So this is, we're just taking L's left and right here in this opening turn. They go Shangri-La, set 1 pass. They're going to go Shangri-La here to set up a Fenrir directly from the deck to the field. We're going to normal summon the Jet Synchron and summon out the Herald of the Arclight, which should have been in the last replay, but it is what it is. We're now going to go for Turbulence here. Turbulence banishing 2, summoning itself. We're going to go for the Fenrir to target and banish our Turbulence. That's why we summon Herald. We can now negate. We're now also going to use the Fire Attacker, summoning itself out to the field. Because we summoned a Rescue Ace, we can also summon the Fire Attacker as well. Fenrir getting negated and destroyed. Turbulence going to set 3 cards from the deck this time because we do have Contain in hand. Oh no, 2 cards because one's in the graveyard as well. Or Banish Pile, sorry. Going into Baron de Fleur, using the Jet Synchron again, making use of the cards we have at our disposal, even if it isn't exactly the ideal situation for us. We are going to pop the Birth to limit their follow-up. We're going to go for the Shangri-La here. We're going to hit the Shangri-La with Contain to negate its effects. We still do control a Rescue Ace, thanks to the Fire Attacker, which is why we kept that around. So we're able to negate the Shangri-La. They're going to go for Kashtira Birth here. Another copy, simply just draw the out. But unfortunately, we have the out to the out, which is the Baron de Fleur, negating and destroying the Kashtira Birth. And they instantly surrender. They have no follow-up, no method of dealing with our board, and we have plenty of ways of absolutely punishing them. So yeah, easy scoop. Let's get into the deck profile. Alright, so let's get in and discuss this. First of all, we're going to remove the hand traps and such from it, just so that we're looking at less cards. We have the triple Maxi, we have the triple Ash Blossom, double called by, single crossout. Gotta stop Maxi. We have the double thrust, the single tactics as well. I really like those cards in particular. Thrust helps a lot in this deck because it also helps you set up your Rhoda and 1-for-1. But yes, and then we also have double imperm. So those are all the sort of flex spots. I guess actually Caster Fenrir is also a flex spot, yeah. So you've got 14 flex spots that you can play around with, do whatever the hell you want. You can do with these as you please. This is the actual main deck. So let's talk about it. First of all, let's talk about the Rescue Ace cards themselves. We have Hydrant at 3, we have Impulse at 3, Airlifter at 3, Monitor at 1, Fire Attacker at 2, Fire Engine at 2, and Turbulence at 2. We then, of course, have the back row as well. Rescue Ace HQ, Rescue, Alert, Contain, and Extinguish. So, the entire main deck, basically the entire objective is to generate advantage, right? So, Hydrant is your sort of central main deck monster, if you will. Having Hydrant on field is pretty important because it powers up all of your back row. But it's also a consistency card. So while you control another Rescue Ace as well as this card, he becomes untargetable by card effects and attacks, which will of course help keep him safe, help stop him getting negated and things like that. So that is very important. Once per turn, he has like a coup clock effect where once per turn you get to use a quick play or trap that was set that turn, as long as it was set by the effect of a Rescue Ace card, i.e. your Turbulence. So if you have Hydrant and Turbulence, you can actually use Hydrant to activate one of the back row that you set off of Turbulence on the turn you set it, which can actually lead to some pretty crazy extension. Not very common though, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But its main effect, of course, is that you can activate it to once per turn search your deck for any Rescue Ace monster. Helps you extend. We have Impulse. So the way I'm going to briefly introduce you to the warriors of the deck. The 3 warriors, Airlifter, Impulse, and Monitor. They all kind of operate in similar capacities. They have an on-field effect and they have a tribute effect. The on-field effect of Impulse, you get as a spell speed 1 to target an effect monster your opponent controls at the highest attack, and neither player can activate its effects for this turn. So it's a spell speed 1 negate, which is pretty mid. This guy's tribute effect though is nuts. So they all activate under the same conditions. If your opponent activates a monster effect on field, you can tribute this card from your hand or field to special summon a Rescue Ace monster from the deck. That part is pretty nuts. Monitor on summon will search your deck for a Rescue Ace spell card, usually the HQ. And then when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can tribute it to to special summon a Rescue Ace monster from the hand. So Impulse does from hand, Airlifter does from deck, and no bonus points for guessing what Monitor does. On summon, you search for a trap card, and this guy will summon a Rescue Ace from the graveyard by tributing itself. So searches for spells, summons from hand, searches for traps, summons from grave. And then Impulse is the oddball in that it doesn't search for anything, but it does summon a monster directly from the deck, using its tribute effect. Really powerful cards overall. We have Rescue Ace, Fire Attacker, and Fire Engine, both of which will summon themselves to the field if you normal or special summon a Rescue Ace monster, which makes them pretty solid. With Fire Attacker, if your opponent adds a card to their hand other than drawing it, then you get to draw 2 and then discard 1, so it helps you draw additional cards. And Fire Engine, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Rescue Ace monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, giving you easy access to Hydrant, ideally during your opponent's turn, so that you can utilize the boosted effects of your back row. And then you got Turbulence itself, which will special summon itself by banishing 2 Rescue Ace cards from the graveyard. Then you, during the main phase, can set up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells or traps from the deck with different names. And if another card you control leaves the field because of your opponent's card, you can target a card in the field and destroy it. So he's a pretty decent boss monster, absolutely. Setting 4 Rescue Ace cards from deck is absolutely nuts, but its little disruption effect here is pretty decent as well. You know, level 9, 3k attack and defense, easy summon. Yeah, it's hard to complain. Very, very good card. We have Rhoda to search for any of your warriors. We have 1-for-1 to summon out your Rescue Ace Hydrant. Rescue Ace HQ, will give you an additional normal summon once per turn, which is crazy, right? It can also shuffle back into the deck 4 Rescue Ace cards that are either banished or in the graveyard, and you get to draw 1. It also gives your Rescue Ace monsters 500 additional attack and defense if your opponent controls a monster. So a few decent effects there, but primarily the extra normal summon as well as the recycling primarily of your back row is super important. So Rescue will grab a Rescue Ace monster in the graveyard and special summon it to your field, or if you control Hydrant, you can summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard instead. Rescue will allow you to grab a monster back from graveyard to hand, or if you control Hydrant, from deck to hand. Contain will allow you to target an effect monster your opponent controls. It can't attack and its effects are negated, and if you also control Hydrant, it also cannot be used as material for Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Link summoning. So it will always negate and stop the attack of, but if you have Hydrant on the field, which is this guy, it also can't be used for extra deck material, which is insane. And lastly, we have Extinguish, which will pop a card, and if you control Hydrant, your opponent cannot activate the effects of that destroyed monster or monsters with the same original name for the rest of the turn. Pretty niche. But yeah, the main deck really isn't all that complicated. It does not take a genius to figure out how to play this deck. You basically just try to put 2 monsters on board, try to put 3 monsters on board basically, try to go into Aurora Dawn, set a bunch of back row, and that's pretty much it, right? It's really not that complex. As for the extra deck, most of it is fairly optional. The only parts that are really necessary, I would say, are Barricade Borg Blocker, purely because it's a Link 2 machine. That is literally it. Because you play Warriors, these guys of course can't be used as the material for Aurora Dawn, so being able to summon out a Link 2 machine by using those guys gives you more flexibility in going into your combo. You have the Aurora Dawn itself, which will summon out 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens, as well as tributing itself, and one of those tokens is summon the O-Lion directly from the deck. I should also mention O-Lion and Jet Synchron are here as bricks in the deck to enable your Aurora Dawn combo. This will summon the O-Lion directly from the deck. The other core cards, of course, are the Synchro monsters then at that point. So you have the Axel Synchron, which will be summoned off of O-Lion and a token. This will send the Jet Synchron to the grave to reduce its level by 1. Then you can use this guy and the 2 remaining tokens to go into Baron de Fleur. Generic, once while face up Omni Negate, level 10 Synchro. Love it. You have the Borreload Savage Dragon, which is a level 8 monster who will have 3 Omni Negates, 1 per turn. Which is again pretty damn awesome. Just Omni Negates out the ass. And then lastly we have Herald of the Arclight, which is a way of utilizing remaining token, leftover token, or potentially something like an Impulse and your Jet Synchron just as an additional negate. You saw it come up in the Kashtira matchup, so definitely worth playing. Baguska is also a decent card to play. I was playing it more when I initially had Monitor at 3 and I didn't like it, so I stepped it down. It was more so for when Monitor was at 3. With Monitor now being at 1, you can maybe drop Baguska. It's not all that relevant, but to be perfectly honest, there's also not really anything in the extra deck that you want to use. So you can do whatever you want, essentially. Baguska, Zeus here to deal with opposing... if you steal a Rise Heart off of Tactics, you can turn it into Zeus, which is literally its only purpose. Or using Baguska, of course. Link Spider, just to turn a Nibiru token into an effect monster, which again isn't even really all that useful. Again, it's primarily just for something like an access code talker, I guess. We have Almirage, which is here to turn the likes of a Maxi or something like that into a fire monster for summoning out a Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf is actually decent because if you summon a fire monster to one of the arrows it points to, it can grab you back a fire monster from the graveyard, which could be a Rescue Ace or it could be an Ash Blossom or something like that, which is useful. Masquerena and Sprite Elf, just generic Link monsters. Unicorn, generic Link that you're not really ever going to use. And lastly then, Access Code Talker, which will on occasion wipe up a board and allow you to go for lethal. But again, you'll never really use this, you'll never really use these. You'll never really use this, you'll never really use these. This is sort of the extra deck that you want to build, right? Everything else is totally optional. But let me throw up the full deck one more time so we can get one last look at it. Here we are. And there you go. That's the full deck. Again, relatively straightforward profile, much quicker than yesterday's video. But that is the full breakdown. If you want to ask any questions, if you have any suggestions, any issues, anything like that at all with the deck list, or you just want to learn more, you can either leave questions in the comments and I'll get around to them, or you can pop into the Discord where you can actively chat to me and anybody else there about the deck and pitch your ideas or ask your questions or anything like that, and you will get answered pretty quickly. But yes, that's everything I have to say. Like the video, Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps me out massively. Helps you out. You get to see more stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.